Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, my name is Umar. I'm your host on the No Limit Selling podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategy, and advice on how you can become better, stronger, faster. Just before we get started, I've got a question for you. Do you have a negative voice inside your head? We all do, right? I'm going to help you remove that voice in under 30 days guaranteed. Not only remove it, but transform it. So instead of the voice that sabotages you, there's one that propels you to much higher levels of performance and success. There's a link in the show notes. Click on it to find out more. All right, let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling podcast. And just today we did the 259th episode got published. So we've been doing this for a while. And one of the things I love about the show is my highest value is learning cool stuff. And the best way to do that is to get bright people on the show so we get to pick their brains and share their wisdom with the world. And today we have Brian Morgan here from New York City. Brian, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Before we went on air, we were just talking about, newborns and how it changes your life. And certainly that's one of the defining moments when people go from whatever house they have to the house they truly want. So now that you've gone through this experience, how does that change your insights into people that are actually getting bigger homes because they got kids? Does it inform it in any different way?
Yeah, well, I'm going through that right now. I mean, it's a constant discussion in my household. We're trying to figure out where we're going to live, what community we're going to be in. Are we going to stay in New York City? Are we going to leave New York City? If we're in New York City, what neighborhood are we going to be when we're in New York City? And we have a good idea of where we're leaning and making these decisions, but there's still a long ways away. I mean, we do definitely need more space. We're in a 3-bedroom on the Upper East Side, but it's a small 3-bedroom, and my wife just buys tons of toys for our baby, and it takes up a lot of space. And I always see my customers going through it, but for almost 20 years, and now I'm living it, and it's different to live it than when you're the broker. And we're trying to figure it out. It's a very interesting. I'm sure we're going to get a lot into this into the marketplace. And there's all these factors that are presenting themselves, and it's like I'm in my client's shoes for once.
Oh, that is pretty amazing. It's one of my cousins. He's a doctor, and he ended up talking to these women. They got kids that aren't behaving, and he's like, hey, look after your kids and just make them take this medicine. And as he's walking away, one woman whispers to the other woman, "Wait till you have your own kids, mister." And he says he always remembers that because when he had his firstborn, it was like, you can't control these monsters. They have a life of their own.
Yeah, a lot of things that I used to be like judgmental. We're all a little bit judgmental, but like used to think everything, especially when it comes to sleep schedules and things like that. You're like, oh, sleep schedules. Who needs a sleep schedule? You can do without it. Like, I used to people used to have to leave certain events we were at because of sleep schedules, and now I can't believe it. I'm living it, and now I have to tell my brothers that they have to understand the sleep schedule, but they don't understand. And it's like we're going through this, because they're single, and they don't really get how it works. So I was them remembering how they were, how I was, and now they're me. So it's kind of funny how that whole thing is happening. But sleep schedule, I've learned, very important.
So Brian, how long have you been in real estate?
I've been doing this, I'm going on 18 years now. So I started in 2005. Started in 2005. Right. So it'll be 18 years this summer. Yeah.
So did you join a team initially to kind of get the hang of how things work? What was that introduction like into real estate?
Yeah, I didn't. And it was definitely a mistake. Listen, you live and learn in many aspects in life, but if I had to do it all over again, I think my learning curve would have been so much quicker if I had joined a team. I kind of just wanted to do it on my own, figure it all out by myself. I wanted to it was me against the real estate world. And, I realized years later how foolish that was, but that was my mindset going in. I had a killer attitude. I wanted to come in here and take over and do everything. And you can't do everything by yourself. And, the learning curve, really gets cut if you learn from people with experience. So live and learn.
Absolutely. Now, are you running a team, part of a team?
Yeah, so I'm running a team. I've been running a team since 2009. Different people on the team now than were on the team 2009. Mm-hmm. Most of the people that have been on my team have stayed around, but certain people have gone on to different careers. Other people have wanted to create their own teams. But most people that I've had on my team, usually they're either on my team for a very long time or they stay for a very short time.
They realize it's
I
not
know
right
if
for
it's
me
not,
and jump off, which is a blessing.
or vice versa. Either way,
Yeah.
but there's a certain there's certain expectations I have when you're on my team, and if they're not willing to meet those expectations, and then it's not going to work. I like to feel like, and I think most people that have been on my team, I do what I say, and whatever I promise, I'm going to act on. So I don't think I underperform in terms of expectations. Maybe they have other expectations, but as far as what I promise in an interview, I deliver on. And I think anybody that's been on my team knows that.
Brilliant. So let's take a look at because being a realtor is one set of skills, then being a team leader adds another dimension to it. So people that are considering becoming team leaders, like you said, when you first started, you made a mistake not joining a team. But now, if you were advising somebody new that's starting a team, what would be the 5 pieces of advice you'd give them so they
Five.
become build a good team? And you and I can share the responsibility. We'll go back and forth. Let's see if we can get 7 together. I'll let you kick it off. What's the first piece of advice you'd give?
I think, as somebody who is a leader of anything, you have to be willing to listen. I think it's a main component to be able to be a good leader, is to understand where somebody else is coming from, because the dynamics of someone's personality or situation might be very different than where you're coming from. And if you
Mhm.
can't listen, then you can't have an understanding of what that particular individual is experiencing. So I think that's number one, rather than always doing the talking, whereas leaders are expected to talk and speak about what they believe and try to teach. I think listening is underrated.
And just to add to that, crucially important, even as a realtor, if you don't listen properly to your clients, you're not going to find the house that they want quick enough. One of the ways to listen when you're not paying attention is to watch someone's lips move. Because sometimes we're thinking about lunch and dinner and what I want to do, my baby. And if you just watch that person's mouth move, it just keeps you focused on that conversation. And it's a good mental trick to do that. So I'll come up with number 2. Number 2 is really get to know how each individual team member is motivated, whether it's an admin person or a realtor. And one of the ways to do that is to ask a simple question when they're not expecting it. And it's just, I'm going to ask you the question, Brian. When you went to school, elementary school, high school, college, university, who's your favorite teacher and how did they get the best performance out of you? So who's that person for you, Brian?
Oh boy, I would have to say um, there was a teacher. I don't know that he got the best performance out of me because I wasn't ready to do what was necessary, but there was a guy named Mr. Hewlett who was a hardcore. So I think it's different for every personality. For my personality, I need someone who's very structured and very strict. Then I
Yeah,
performed. If I was given any leash, I was taking advantage. You
you
showed
want
me an
to
inch, I was
wander?
taking a yard. Yeah, so I was gonna do whatever I could to make jokes in class or make the class funny, or just goof around. The minute I saw someone was very strict, I was in line. The name that comes to mind is Mr. Hewlett. He was a social studies teacher in 8th grade, and I was terrified of him. And I studied hard because I knew that I had to perform for him. I was afraid to do poorly in his class. He
Poorly.
caught someone
And
he caught someone cheating one time in class and exposed the whole thing in front of the class. He had all the answers. He had the person in front of that person write all of the answers wrong on purpose during the quiz. And when he got to the quiz, he gave all the wrong answers to that person in front of the class and humiliated him. Like, this was a scary guy.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so the reason I like that question is, got somebody, Judy, in the class, and she's like, so and so was my favorite teacher, and what they did was they told me exactly what needed to be done, and then they just let me go do it, and I could ask them questions, and that got the best performance. And so people reveal how they want to be led, and if you ask them how do you want to be led, it opens up a different filter, and they give you a different answer. So sometimes just asking who is your favorite teacher, what do they do to get performance, lets you know as a leader how you need to lead that person. And so that's number 2. So number 1 was listening. Number 2 was figure out how they learn and are motivated. Number 3 goes to you, Brian. What's your third piece of advice to be a good leader?
My third piece is to have goals. To make sure that you have goals for people on your team. And that could be a yearly goal, that could be a weekly goal, it could be a monthly goal. And a goal doesn't necessarily mean achievement. A goal means something you say you're going to do and then execute on. So if you have all these ideas of things you want to do, let's say, my goal is to go on, I want to do a lot of FISBOs, right? And I want to I want to get listings from FISBOs. Well, how many FISBOs are you going to go on a week? How many a month? How many a year? So have a plan. I like to make sure that my team has a plan. I let them decide how they want to get business, and it's up to me to hold them accountable for that plan.
Oh, love that. And just for the uninitiated, a FISBO is?
Oh, it's a for sale by owner. So some people that try to sell homes themselves often fail. The statistics are there that most of them fail. And realtors often go to listings and meet sellers and try to help them. And sometimes they help them without getting a listing, and other times they don't. But the idea is for realtors to try to help. And sometimes people will sell it themselves, and that's great because now the realtor has a relationship with that person. And if that person likes you, then maybe they refer you a buyer or a seller in the future. So, you're not necessarily wasting time just by meeting somebody and not getting the listing.
Number 4, which is for me, is very much you need to walk your talk and keep your word. Because one of the things a leader does is you lend your confidence in the person you're leading to them when they need it most. Because this is a scary business. And when things are going not so well, sometimes people lose confidence and they can leverage the confidence the leader has in them. And one of the ways you build that confidence is keep your word, back people up no matter what, and realize that your well of confidence in them will be utilized. And once they actually utilize it, they get more confidence in themselves. And it just becomes, you just help the entire team be bolder, more confident, more driven. But it all starts with you. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would add on that to say, you want to make yourself available for your team. Just because you're instilling confidence is very important, but the real way to show that you care and that you're in it with them is to make yourself available. So I'm an extremely busy broker. I could have 20 customers going on at a time. I have 2 assistants. Constantly networking and figuring out ways to market myself better and also handling my customers. There's a lot going on. So then I have a whole team I have to be responsible for. So it's up to me to say, if they have a problem, to say, even if I'm not available at that very second, okay, I'm not available now, but this is when I am available. And it should be that day or even that hour, maybe, even if it's just 5 minutes giving your time.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't be, 3 days later, I can sit down with you, because 3 days later is way, way too long. They need an answer now. And I might not be available at that second because I'm with a customer, but I am extremely motivated to make sure that the second I am available, I let them know. So I'm constantly, I will text them back right away and say, listen, I'm not available now, but I will, how's 30 minutes from now or 2 hours from now? That's the first second I'll have available. And I make sure I make myself available at that time. So showing that you're constantly there for them, it's not what you say, it's what you do. It's what you do. People react to what you do. Anybody can talk.
Absolutely. And I put that down as number 5. So number 1 was listen. Number 2 was figure out how I teach and motivated them. Number 3 was setting kick-ass amazing goals. Number 4 was mine. Keep your word, increase your confidence. And for you, be available. And number six, what you need to do is do an autopsy on every single deal that you do. So every deal that your agents do, what went well? If the deal went fabulously well, and how do we do that? Do we need to change the process to add that little trick you did so that everybody improves? And then the second thing is when things go wrong, do the autopsy without blame to really figure out what happened. And as we train people to, with iteration, we get better, that just creates a culture of improvement. And everybody is there to support everyone, and everyone knows that it's okay to make a mistake as long as we learn from it. And it just allows you to just a more highly functional team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with all of that. And, in going to maybe number 7 would be kind of a mixture of compassion and tough love, because the business is really hard. There's a lot of rejection, and people tend to get down, and they also tend to go way, way up. So if you're excited, you get a new big client and they're all excited, if that doesn't work out, it comes crashing really, really hard. So you have to have, compassion for the emotions that are involved in the business. At the same time, there needs to be tough love. So if somebody's saying, oh, I'm going to do this, that, and the other, and then they're not, you have to be able, at that point, I'm not going to have compassion for you. I might have compassion that you lose a deal or something went wrong. They couldn't get a mortgage, or the person just changed their mind and didn't want to buy, or, somebody, maybe had an problem with their family. Those things I have compassion for, because you can't control that stuff, right? But if somebody says that they're going to go on a certain amount of, I brought just one example, Fizbo's up before, and then they
Yeah.
don't. Well, I'm going to give you tough love at that point. Like, you made a promise to yourself, you made a promise to me. Why didn't it happen? And if it continues to happen, you're not going to be on my team very long.
Absolutely. I think some people really need that, and they step into where they want to be. It was this company I was working with, and the CEO of the company took this guy in and said, look, it's come to Jesus. We're firing you. You're just not working out. And the guy begged for the second time for another 30 days. And something inside him just switched, and he just switched on awesomeness. But it took that come to Jesus conversation for him to step up. And then he became like the number one producer in the entire company. But it wouldn't have happened unless there was that accountability and tough love. Is like, hey, you're not working out. You need to leave.
I can appreciate that, because anybody that's been on my team that hasn't worked out, I do have those come to Jesus moments where I do sit down with them and listen, I like you. I want this to work. Because a lot of times the people that I bring in originally, I usually bring them in because I like them. So I hate to see when somebody has to go. So I do have those, like, listen, we've tried this. If you can't do it this time, it's going to be the last time. And I hope that they are able to do what they say, but then when they fail again, then you know what? It has to end somewhere.
And
I'm too busy.
And just for our Jewish brothers and sisters, it's a come to Moses moment for you.
Yeah. And I'm Jewish, and I'm still saying Jesus. Jesus was Jewish, remember.
He certainly was. So number 8, I think training is essential, and it doesn't have to be like this big overarching thing. I think just small increments of, how to be a better negotiator. Here's a tip to do that. Here is a better communicator. Here's how to not cave in on pressure to reduce your commission, and also get the agents themselves to teach each other. So once a week, somebody's teaching the group as well. So the leader's teaching, individual group members are teaching, and it just creates a culture of learning. And then, of course, bringing experts in that wear black t-shirts and look incredibly handsome is also a thing to do. So number 9 for you, Brian, close this thing out with a high note.
I think positivity is something that, especially now in an environment, I had a meeting with 2 of my agents yesterday, and things are really slow in New York. We just had the slowest November since 2008, 2009, and we had the slowest 2008 in over a decade. The slowest October since 2000 in over a decade. And, obviously your agents start getting a little scared because, we don't get paid salaries. We work on commission, completely. So people start to get a little bit nervous. And I think you got to remain positive about things. I mean, listen, this is in the face of what we just had another rate increase in the States. So it does start to get nerve wracking, our deal's going to happen, what's going to happen. And, I remind them of what happened in my career in 2008, 2009. Said, listen, it's a blip in New York City. People, the reason I got into this business are people always need someplace to live. You're always going to have work because you're not going to get fired. You're with me. We're going to work hard no matter what. We're going to build our business. We're going to use this as an opportunity and try to take something that's negative and make it into a positive. It's all about positive reinforcement. There's always something positive at the end of that rainbow if you just want to see it. And that's that's what leadership's about. It is making sure that there's always something more to do that we can improve. You can be the worst football team in the NFL, and I guarantee you can go to practice and work on something that's going to make you better, that hopefully you'll get a win. And it's just where your baseline begins. So maybe the baseline needs to begin a bit lower. Okay, you got to start from somewhere. Let's be positive. And let's not talk about all the negative things.
Absolutely. And just to your example, you could be the best team in the NFL that ever lived. And your coach is going to point out an area you need to improve. And those teams go and look for that little small thing they can improve to be even better. So yeah, that's just one of the things that great leaders do and winners do, is they're always looking for that little edge to do better. So Brian, what brings you joy in your work?
Helping people, watching them get the apartment that they really want, signing that contract and being excited about it, not signing the contract and be like, I don't know, should I do it? Like, I want my customers, and I tell them this when I meet them, if you're not running to sign that contract, then maybe you shouldn't be signing that contract. I want them to be overjoyed moving forward on a deal. If they're not, then it gives me no joy. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm not about getting deals. I'm about making these customers of mine happy, and for word to get around that I'm the broker that, looks out for them, not for me. That
Brilliant.
them knowing that I'm looking through the lens of them first gives me so much joy. If they understand that by the time they close, that's what gives me pleasure.
I love that. And what's one mind hack you'd like to share with the listeners? Something you use, a technique to be more productive, more successful. What's that one mind hack you'd like to share?
I think I started meditating about 7-8 years ago, and I think
Hmm.
that's been really helpful for me. In a lot of different ways, and not being reactive in certain ways, and being focused more on the present moment, not worrying about whether a deal is going to happen, not worrying about a deal that fell apart, or being angry at someone who did something that maybe wasn't so nice. You learn a lot about people in this business, and not everybody is so nice. People, you're not their friend necessarily, and you're not their brother or sister or cousin. You're their realtor. They expect something from you, and if you're not delivering on that, even if it's just a perception and you are delivering but they think you're not, that's tough to take, because you're doing everything you
Yeah.
can, and they perceive it. That's very hard, and you could wrap yourself up in how I could have done things different and beat yourself up about it. It's good to learn, like we talked about that before, and like, okay, well, what did I do wrong? How can I improve? But there's sometimes that there's nothing you could do, and you're beating yourself up about it, and you're thinking about that deal you lost, or you're thinking about that new buyer you get, and you're thinking about, oh my God, I'm going to have this much money in my bank account after I do this big deal. When really, like, what mindfulness teaches you is we have to be focused in the moment, and past, future, not going to help. We got to be talking about now. Always
Absolutely.
thinking
One
about
of my
now.
favorite cards all happens here. One of my favorite cards, I saw this card. They've got a Dalai Lama-esque kind of guy. It's his birthday, and the other monks have gotten him a gift, and they've given him this empty box. And the guy's opened it, and he goes, "Oh my God, nothingness! What I always wanted."
Yeah, well,
Brian,
that's what it's about. But people don't want to. It's just like anything. People don't want to take the time to do it. So every morning I set aside 15 minutes to do it, and it's part of my day. But it's hard, like, to get into that habit. It's a big commitment, just like the gym or just like anything else. But once you start doing it and you get in a mindset where you can't not do it, you'll always do it, and you'll be better for it. So I recommend that
brilliant.
highly to people.
So, Brian, I'm going to send you out a copy of my web app. It's called Mindset Boosters, and it allows you to take charge of your mindset. So when you need more confidence, you got it. When you need to be focused in the now, you got it. And I'm creating a new track today, which is all about gratitude and presence. Like 10 minutes in the morning. We'll be designing it today and releasing it. I'll send you out a copy. Would love to hear your
Awesome.
feedback.
All right.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Thanks for being on the show. Really enjoyed the conversation, and looking forward to our next.
My pleasure. Take care. Have a great weekend.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.